Всем привет! Это VkuSvet, подкаст о женщинах, которые посвятили свою жизнь, свой пыл изучению гастрономии. Меня зовут Соня, и я, собственно, изучаю этих женщин. Сейчас 6:30 утра, и я жду звонок из Бангкока, чтобы выпить свою первую за это раннее утро чашку кофе с лучшей женщиной-шефом во всей Азии.
Шеф Пам – лучшая и самая молодая женщина-шеф-повар в Азии. В 21 год Шеф Пам выиграла Asia Youth Hope Cooking. Ее ресторан Потонг входит в топ-50 лучших ресторанов мира. Он удостоился награды The Michelin Opening of the Year. Сам ресторан построен в значимом для семьи Шеф Пам месте. Гостям предлагают попробовать сет из блюд, тесно связанных с воспоминаниями самого шефа.
Hi, Sonya.
Very nice to meet you, and I'm so happy and so thankful to see you on my podcast. And
yes, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
You are the best, the youngest and the best Thai female chef of this year, if I'm correct.
Asia Best Female Chef. Yeah.
And so what age was it when you when you became a chef?
My culinary journey professionally started when I was around second year of university. So 18 years old. Yeah, because at university, my first choice wasn't anything to do with cooking, and it's kind of like shifting in career during the half year through of my university.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but so while scrolling the internet, I found out that you are from the family where like fourth generation of not doing anything related with gastronomy. So how hard was the decision to choose another path different from what your family is doing?
If looking back over 10 years ago, being a chef or a cook is not something that is respectable at least in the Thai society back then. Usually parents want their kids to be, a doctor or go into finance, a lawyer, those kind of fields. And when I told my parents that I want to go into food industry, I want to work in the kitchen, surprisingly, they support, full on, because my mom, she's a housewife. So she cooks at home for the family all the time. And her passion is cooking. And when she was young, she wanted to go into cooking school. But then at her time, it was more difficult. And with financial limitations, she wasn't able to do that. So with me, she really want me to pursue my dreams and to pursue in the food industry, because she also has a passion for it. So I have a full support from my family, luckily. Yeah.
And your mother, you mentioned her in one of the interview as your biggest influence on your career. What is one or maybe few most important lessons which you remember and use from your mother?
So when she cooks for our family, I always help her in the kitchen, and every time, and she goes to the market to buy all the ingredients by herself. She's very particular in every steps of the way. So the lessons that I remember until now and learn from her is that you always have to choose the best ingredients for your guests. So my mom is very serious about freshness, about quality. Even though she cooks for her family and her friends sometimes at home, she's very particular. So if this chop doesn't have a particular specification that she's looking for. She would go all the way to another, side of the town to look for it. So she's very particular about quality of ingredients, which I learned a lot from her, and I still using that philosophy of my kitchen right now. And I think she's like truly right, because ingredients are very important to every dish, and with good ingredients, without good ingredients, you cannot do great food. So I really learned that from her. And she's also very particular in organization of her kitchen. Even though it's a house kitchen, she's, very almost like OCD in doing things. So for me to learn that and to use that in our kitchen, in professional kitchen, helps a lot in, managing and in organization part.
Another also big influence, as I found out, was Julia Child, if I'm correct.
Julia Child, yes.
Yeah, what was her influence on you?
I mean, I didn't live in the same era as her, and I also learned her history and what she did that impact the food industry through, when I was learning in culinary school, and I read about her and I watch movies about her. And she inspires me because she was one of the first one of the first American women to get into French cooking and to break barriers of, having a female in the kitchen. And she went to Cordon Bleu to a cooking school where there's no female at all. And she was the first one who showed that, female can also work in a French kitchen, and come back to her country and teach the French cooking to the mass of the American society. And for me, it's not just about learning French and doing all that, but for me, what inspires me is how she overcome the challenges that is set by the society of only men in the kitchen. And that's really truly inspired me, because I want to be the one who also impact in some way or another for the food industry to increase more female that is in the forefront of the kitchen.
Also, do correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the statistics which I found. 70 to 80% of your group in the restaurant, in the kitchen, are women.
Correct. Around 80%. And that wasn't by choice. I mean, I think I attract many female young chefs, and that's why they, applied more. And right now, almost like all the leaders in not just kitchen, but also sommelier and, front of the house are female. So we have a very strong female professions in our company.
I mean, personally, I found it very surprising, because in Russia and in Moscow specifically, it is very, very unusual. Usually, it is more male.
More men, right?
Yeah. We don't have much women at kitchens actually at all. And how usual is it for Bangkok?
Bangkok as a whole, I think if you talk about fine dining, there's still more men. But in general, if you walk to the street food and you see the one who's cooking at home, I think it's mostly female, which is great, because female is the one who cook for the family, and if they have to do business or if they have to open a noodle shop, the mother would be the one who does it. So for us, we will see a lot of female cooks and female chefs in a bigger mass market, but for fine dining, it's still not well represented, I would say.
Yeah, and why do you think there are more men in representing big restaurants and kitchens than women?
I think mainly because of family responsibility, like the mother duty, because it happens to me when I was pregnant and when I had my daughter the first year. I felt kind of disconnected with my career because I felt guilty that I'm not doing the best, mother. I'm not being the best mother as the society would view me. And that's just all in my head. But then once the time passed, I kind of like balance it out, and I really want to pursue my career. That's where I realized that I can do both at the same time. But I believe that many mothers, in order to surpass that feeling, it's very difficult. And that's where a lot of career women dropped out professionally to work and stay home and be the full-time mom because of how they perceive the best mother should be. And I don't think sexism or bully in the kitchen is the main reason of why there's less female at all, because I don't in my past experience working in other kitchen, I didn't have that experience.
Yeah. And also coming back to what I mentioned in the beginning, that you are the youngest female chef in Asia. And so you have achieved that at a very early and young age. And was there any responsibility that you felt? Did it affect you in any way at that specific age?
I never thought of age as challenges or expectations wise when I received this kind of awards, because I believe that I already have experience in working with someone else, and I train myself. I always push for boundaries, whatever I do, even though it's a small task or small things to do in the kitchen. When I was was an intern, I always do everything. I always try to learn at least one thing with a particular task that I was given when I was young. So along the way, I learned so many lessons, and I think that it shapes of how I do things nowadays and how I view things. So I don't think being young, how would I say, limit you from being great. So for me, no pressure. I just do what I do best and try to improve every day.
Yeah, that sounds actually very inspiring, to be
Thank
honest.
you.
I'm also, I would say, a big fan of the philosophy of your restaurant, of this concept that food is memory.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned also in one of the interviews about the philosophy 5 senses and 5 elements. Could you tell me more about it? What is it
So
about?
at Potong, I really believe that, dining, eating can happen in a spiritual level and create real memories. And sometimes people say that they create food through memories. Yes, they're correct, but how can they really make the customer remember their meals that night for a long time, and they think back to the meal? And for me, that's where the 5 senses comes in. So when I was having my daughter, I read a book of how to teach her how to remember something, for example, an apple. And the book says that in order to imprint a long-term memory, you need to have the 5 senses that will happen to her in order to fix the memory inside at the back of the brain. And that is, for example, an apple. You need to tell her it's an apple, and also let her smell it and see it by her real eyes. And the most important thing is not just to show her a picture, but let her touch and taste it also. And when that all the elements, all the senses happen at once, that's where she remembers that's an apple. because it ignites all her, senses. And that's where we try to do at Potong, is to make all the senses of the customer happen at once, with all the dishes, so they remembers what they had that night. Because sometimes it can happen that you go into a restaurant and you feel that night that at the end of the meal, you feel, oh, it's a really good meal, one of the best. But then a week after, your friend asks, like, what's your favorite? They cannot think of one,
Yeah.
But I want to be a restaurant that they can remember the dishes and the real taste and the experience they have there. So that's where the five senses came about. But the five elements are the philosophy of my cooking when I create a menu, and it is salt, acid, spice, Maillard reaction, and texture. And these five elements didn't come just, over one night. It's I think it's the experience and the things that I look back to myself of whenever I create a menu, it's always come back to these five elements, and it just, happens through time. And so that's where the five elements comes from.
It also says that like the 20 dishes in the set are the journal of your personal memories. What were the most important, maybe, memories from your childhood, from your youth that affected that set?
I grew up in a family that is evolving around food. Food is an important part of our life. We eat in a big family. And for me, great food memories come from the food that touches your heart. And it might not be the best flavor in the world, but when it touches someone's heart, it's the best. You feel it's the best and you feel warm. So at Potong, I don't just want to tell my memories through food, but also I want to touch the emotions of the customers. I try to link to them too, because if they relive my memories, it's not as memorable as, having them to be involved in the food memories also. So that's really important.
So you're giving the customers, the guests, the experience of like this you give them a physical opportunity to get this memory from your food.
Yes. So for example, it's just one example. We have one course that we give out a comic book, because we want the customer to read through the comic books to understand more about the ingredients that they are served in front of them. So I think comic books can link to most of us. Since we were young, we read comic books, and each comic books we have 10 languages. So we have customer coming from all over the world. So we want to customize and we want to be personal to them. And in that way, I believe that they will feel connected to what we're serving even more. That's one example of what we're doing at Potong.
If you would need to give one advice to a girl who is starting her career in gastronomy as a chef, what would it be?
I would say it's going to be a long journey, and there's going to be times where you feel that you struggle, so many challenges along the way. But I want to say that you're going the right track if you fail and if you make mistakes, because that's where the path of success is. And to work in the industry, I know it's not easy with the hours, with the physical it requires. But if you really like what you're doing, if your passion is about cooking, just don't give up. Just do it, make it happen. And then one day you look back and the small things that is mundane for you, you learn something for it. So always keep learning, pushing, don't give up. And one day is going to be your day.
That is so great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.